ladies and gentlemen, one of the reasons I've been avoiding doing book talks in the past week or so was because of this book, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I can't really wrap my mind around it and talk about it in a way that does it justice. This book is a post-apocalyptic story where we're thrown right in the middle of this barren earth. Unlike most apocalyptic stories or dystopians that I've read, this is way after the catalyst, and we are following a man who is just referred to as a man and his young son. They're traveling on this road, and that's pretty much the entire plot of the story. The writing style in this is very simple to read. I was slightly intimidated by this book for the longest time because I thought that it was going to be literary fiction and written in a way that was going to be too complex for me to understand, but it's really actually written so simply, but somehow still very beautifully. Another thing to note about the writing is that when there is dialogue, there is very little, but when there is, there are no quotation marks. The punctuation, like the setting, is very, very sparse. This story, I feel like, is a very character-driven novel because there isn't really a strong plot. Like I said, basically we have two human beings walking down a road, essentially. The way that it was written, you could imagine how gray everything was, but still it was so beautiful. This book, I will admit, took me a while to read and obviously to talk about because it does have some pretty heavy content in it. Some of the things that these two people are forced to deal with are unimaginable. It really introduces insight and perspective into what humanity is capable of, but it shows both extremes and everything in between, even though the cast of characters is so small. It also brings up other interesting ideas. If you've heard anything about this book, I'm sure that you've heard that there is a bit of cannibalism in this book, and it raises interesting questions, like how unethical is that? It is just survival. It's things like that that this book made me think about. I mean, I'm not saying that I condone cannibalism, especially in the nature that it takes place in this book, but it makes you think about things and question things that you aren't forced to deal with on a daily basis. And it is so very bleak, because like I said, they are walking, and they do at first have a destination, but they reach the destination, not even at the end of the book, but they reach the destination, but there's nothing there. They just have to keep going, and it's just this more of the same, and it's like, all you know, that if this book kept going, it would just be more of the same, more of walking down the road, more of finding another arbitrary destination, and then moving again. And maybe it's just this naive part of me. I found the ending of the book to be kind of hopeful. I think that it can easily be interpreted as very bleak. The only negative thing that I have to say about this book, it had some very obvious beats for me. Something really good for this world happened. I knew that something bad was going to happen, and vice versa. There was kind of this like good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, like rhythm, which was good because it kept you reading to know you needed that relief of the good thing, but then you knew, you anticipated something terrible and this tension was building. So it's not really a negative thing, it just made the pacing feel kind of predictable. But aside from that, I think that this is a book that if you're interested in literary fiction, that you should definitely check out. It's not nearly as intimidating as I thought it was. The content is heavy and slightly graphic, so if you're sensitive to anything like that, probably shouldn't read this book. But otherwise, I highly recommend it, and I'm curious to see how many of you have read this book and your thoughts on it. I have heard that this book is quite polarizing. I wouldn't say that this is like my new favorite book, but it is a very poignant book, and I'm very glad that I read it. I had the pleasure of reading this book with some very lovely ladies, including Frankie from Instead of Gold, Lorna from Suddenly Lorna, and Chelsea from Chelsea in a Book. We haven't gotten around to talking about it yet, but I hope that we do in the near future while it's still fresh on my mind. I also had the opportunity of watching the film adaptation, and it was a nearly perfect adaptation of this book. Visually speaking, it captured the world better than I could have imagined, and the acting was pretty on point. So I also highly recommend the movie, but I feel like the movie was a little bit more touching because of the visual aspect, the literal visual aspect of it. And I also feel like that feeling of hope was emphasized much more in the movie as well towards the end. That is all that I have to say today about The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon with a new video.